Hi, Facebook friends. Helen Archontou here, CEO of the YWCA of Northern New Jersey. So happy to have some time with you today. If you're in New Jersey, it's a little bit of a gloomy or cloudy day, midday for us here. But we're going to brighten your day with our wonderful guest and her story, which I'm so grateful for the opportunity to share with you today. Those of you who are regulars of YWTV know that on Thursdays we share the mic now with Black women in our community to amplify their stories. And Sheilisa has an amazing story that I'm just so excited to share with you. And I want you all to put your thinking caps because we want to help lift her up. And we've got some help that she needs. So I'm hoping as a community we can come together and support her as we're talking with her. So let me tell you a little bit about Sheilisa. For those of you that don't know her, I had the opportunity actually to meet her last week. We our Share the Mic Now guest last week, June, connected us through a Facebook Live event that we had done for one of June's organizations, Greater Newark Enterprise Network, and Sheilisa has been working with them on a project, and we were on this Facebook Live together. And as she shared her story, again, I just knew it was something that I wanted to share with all of you. She is the founder and CEO of Freya, LLC. She is a solution-focused inventor, and brainchild behind Freya, which is a cooling jewelry designed to address hot flashes in menopausal women. In addition to this endeavor, she also has a 30-plus year experience in working in public relations and marketing, corporate communications, professional writing, and collegiate level teaching. She has developed innovative communications practices, marketing and branding campaigns for national and international corporations. She's also authored speeches and remarks for senior level executives, world-renowned celebrities, and A-list politicians. As you can see, those are all great backgrounds to be able to launch, her business. So she's so very talented. She's slated to publish her first work of narrative nonfiction called Relentless. Sometimes the underdog has to win. And that's coming out in the fall of 2021. There's so much happening with this wonderful woman, and I'm so excited to talk with her about it. Welcome, Sheilisa.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me. I'm honored that whenever I hear people read my bio, I'm always saying, who is that? That person is very dynamic. And so thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I always say this as women, we do find ourselves sometimes feeling uncomfortable when we hear people read our bios. But I also, and myself included, but I always say we really need to learn how to soak that in because you earned it. You did all of that work.
A lot of work.
And you created that, those are not just words on a page. That was hard work that you did. So, so soak it all in. And I was so glad to read it and share that with our community because you are such a multi-talented person. So let's talk about that. Tell me, before we jump into Freya, tell me a little bit about your path to life before that, because, you, like so many entrepreneurs, right, have your work and then your side hustle. And then at some point that maybe crosses over and past each other and the side hustle becomes your work. There's that phenomenon that happens, right?
Well, the interesting part is, so my side hustle was writing. I've been writing forever, and so I wrote in the corporate arena, mostly corporate stuff that would bore you to tears. It's just like watching paint dry, but remarks for corporate executives. But then I had the opportunity to start to work with different agencies. One was like Noelle Lane and Noelle Lane Media. And I met them through when I was working with Mr. Earl Graves. So Earl Graves, is posthumously now. He was the publisher of Black Enterprise Magazine, and I was his personal PR manager. So I got to work with him directly. And as a result of that, not only did I learn a whole lot about entrepreneurship, And I never thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. I honestly, I was like, this is a lot of work. But I got to meet agencies where I was able to freelance the writing part. And so that's really what I was doing because I had kids in college at the same time. I had two that were both in college at the same time. And I was a single parent. So I was like, they got to go to school and I got to figure out how to, make sure I can fund this because I didn't want them to not be able to go to school because of finances, which is usually like a really huge thing, especially for kids of color. If you don't get enough grant money or you don't get enough scholarship or you go into humongous debt, you're trying to figure out how to make sure they can eat. And so one kid stayed close, the other kid went away. And yeah, there were 2 years and they were both in school at the same time. And I thought I was going to lose my mind. So part of it is just taking, actually, it was a joy too. Like I used to, obviously I still write, but because Freya takes all of my time, it was a joy to be able to use the power of words to transform things, transform mindsets, transform experiences, and it was often my way of being heard. I feel like when you're this little, I'm short. I'm like only like 5'4", right? Like I'm this little short chocolate girl in certain environments. Like nobody's noticing me, and I honestly didn't really want to be that noticed. But if I can put words on a page, and somebody else is reading them, and I was able to capture your voice and the content or what you needed to say at that particular event or for that occasion, now you heard me, even though you don't even know it was me. I actually did that for Bill Clinton. To this day, he has no idea that I wrote remarks for him while we were in Africa. He was the head of like the AIDS initiative in this for Africa for many years, and he had to deliver remarks to all the presidents of African nations, and I wrote the remarks, and they sent it to his speechwriter, and when I saw the final, I'm like, he used most of my words, like he knew stuff that I didn't know, but he used most of my words. So to this day, Bill Clinton is like, I didn't know she wrote those words, but I did. So yeah, I just was able to use what I had to get what I needed, and that's the mindset. Always, problems just need solutions. So I've always had that mindset. Like I don't have time to lament over it. I got to fix it or I got to
Yeah.
solve it.
Well, I love how amazing to have that, in your repertoire that you got to do that. But I love problems need solutions, right? And just being like very focused on that. And that I think brings us so nicely to Freya, because you saw a problem and you created a solution. And I love what you did. And tell us a little bit about your, how it came to be, and what Fria is for everyone watching who may not know.
So Freya means cold in Spanish, right? And I tell people I literally woke up one day with the idea. That is just the God's honest truth. I woke up one day with the idea of cooling jewels. I didn't know what that was going to look like because I wasn't a jeweler, and nor was I a tech person, but I knew I was hot. Um, and I was tired of being hot. And there was so little that I knew about this life stage and all of its discomforts and transitions. And as I started to research it, I realized that it was not something that most women look forward to. And when I looked at the products that they offer us as relief, when you looked at them, I'm like, none of them serve the spirit I have or the way I see myself. When you would see any kind of commercial for a menopausal woman, it wasn't like a beautiful, vibrant, dynamic woman who is still making moves. It was like a little frumpy person, maybe a little bit overweight, more like stay-at-home grandma-ish. And I'm like, that's not me. Like that doesn't even fit anything but what I'm doing. And then I kept researching and realized that the connotation associated with the life stage is so negative that women don't want to be associated with it. So I did like a woman on the street type questions of just random women, like, hey, what did your mother tell you about menopause? And the answer 99% of the time was nothing, and she didn't go through it. So I'm like, well, I know for a fact that it's a natural biological occurrence that's going to occur in every woman, because we all have all the parts that are in the same place. It doesn't matter about, ethnicity or religion or culture or eye color or anything. It's going to happen. Like, so you get a menses at one point and you get a menopause at another, and there are things associated with that. And the more I research it and the more I understood it, it's really because, it has a connotation of, now you're old. Now you're less relevant. Now you're less sexy. Now you're dried up. Now you're not as desirable. And that was harsh. And then I understood, why that was the response. And it was such a visceral response. Or when I started telling, like, friends and family what I was working on, they were like, oh, menopause, like, don't put none of that on my page, girl. I'm not there yet. That was the constant theme. Like, I'm not there yet. And it means that there was a lot of symptoms that we had no idea, or I had no idea, were actually associated with life stage. And then I transformed it. I was like, it really isn't about the word menopause itself. It's about transitions. Like, we transition constantly. We go from children to adolescence. That's a transition. Your body changes and lots of things happen, and then you transition from, like, adolescent to teenager, and then there's a lot more things that are happening, and biological things and psychological things. And so when I transformed the idea from it being a negative to, it's just another stage of life's transitions, then I'm like, if we change the narrative around this life stage, then women are going to have a lot better quality of life. So the discomfort is what made me start thinking about how I wanted to address it, because I didn't want to wear, like, giant cold ice cubes around my neck or kerchief, all these things that were just, to me, unattractive. And I'm like, I don't want to have that look, and that's just not how I feel inside. And there were so many beautiful women, of every rainbow color in Hollywood and everywhere else, that they're in this age range, and they're dynamically beautiful, and nobody looks at them and goes, that's a menopausal woman. But she's in that age range, and she doesn't want to be associated with it. So that's how I came about it. I'm like, I didn't know what it was going to start out in. I just knew that I had a passion to make a difference and make a change and create something beautiful that we would be, honored to wear. And then it's discreet, so nobody knows that your pretty bracelet is doing double duty. And it's simple. All it requires is, a little icy cold water. So we're using a very innovative technology, but that took a whole lot of research too.
Yeah.
So it was a process with a bunch of ebbs and flows and ups and downs. And but the name of my book is Relentless, because that's what my spirit is, relentless. And I don't give up. I transform. I can pivot. I can decide there's a new approach to something, but I don't quit.
Yeah. First of all, I love that, Relentless is, the core of, your work and your book. But I really appreciate, as a fellow woman, right? I really appreciate you trying to change the narrative and look at menopause in a different way, and really help us as women. I'm 51. I've been told I'm premenopausal. I'm unfortunately still always freezing, much to my husband's chagrin. He keeps waiting for me to want the windows open at night. He's always dying of heat, and I always have 14 blankets on me. But I know that this is a real thing that comes and happens. So I've, been, waiting for it. But, because I know, again, like you said, it's clockwork. This is what's coming with our bodies as they transform. But I love you really that you've really tried to change the narrative around that for women and make it something that we shouldn't be hiding and shouldn't be, trying to, obviously make us feel less sexy or make us feel, less attractive, or less, important in some way because we're going through that change. But if anything, just staying as fierce as we always have been, but just also adding something to our lives to help us feel more comfortable during a transition process. So take us, for our viewers, explain what you did, because I think, again, what's so brilliant about what you did is not only the narrative piece, which I think is amazing, but the actual, what you created is beautiful, and something that any woman can wear.
Yeah.
But also, I'm fascinated by the technology. And how did you even know to step into that technology place, being what your background was as you started out explaining to us?
I did not. I did not know. I honestly started out just imagining what this technology would be. And I thought it would be traditional tech, like air conditioning, like, is there a way to harness the power of cooling small enough so that we can integrate it into something that would be a wearable, a pretty necklace, or, a pretty bracelet. And my former partner and I, she had actually been in the jewelry business for like 30 years. So she had like all of this knowledge that I didn't have. And I started out just talking to anybody who was willing to talk to me. Um, and so we kept getting connected with different people, and it was sort of mushroom. Like, I would tell them what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how to do it. And again, I'm not a scientist until now. So now I consider myself a scientist, because now I'm really, really willing to like get hands on into the whole process. But at the time, I was like, I bet you this already exists. So I'm going to find somebody at MIT. I bet you they're already working on, cooling wearables. And sure enough, I found a guy who had a product out of India. And he was creating these cooling cuffs. And they were more sporty looking. And they were electronic. And then because the energy around refrigeration requires both heat and cold, right? So if it throws off cold, it'll be cold for a certain amount of time. And then because it's so tiny, it's going to warm up, because that's just what it has to do. So I got on a plane, went to India, and met him, because that's the relentless person I am. I'm like, after that, first I got him on the phone, and people were like, "How did you do that?" I called his customer service and asked them to send him an email that I wanted to talk to him. And he responded. And I was like, "Can we come meet you? Because I would really like to talk to you about your technology." And at the time, I was so green and overzealous about everything, and I thought things were going to happen really quickly. So he learned he was an MIT graduate. I'm like, yes, I told you, coming out of MIT. We went to India and learned about his technology. And what we learned actually is that it would not actually be small enough to integrate into something dainty or pretty the way we envisioned it. And we still didn't even have a design yet, but we knew what the ultimate, so the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, one of Stephen Covey's things, he says, begin with the end in mind. So we knew our end result was supposed to be something that was really pretty, not bulky, not, it didn't require any effort, because we're lazy and we don't really want to do that much. So we learned that we couldn't get it small enough to do what we wanted to do. It was still a great experience to have the conversation with him, and he welcomed us and his family, and it was awesome. And they're still doing a lot of amazing things with his tech there and in other countries as well. So then we had to come back here and go back to the drawing board. And we continued having a myriad of conversations about what we were trying to do, until somebody connected us with the mechanical engineering team at the University of Illinois. And they were working on heat thermal transfer research. And that included evaporative cooling. So you can see my energy right now. My energy is like this all the time. So I went to Chicago, to Champaign-Urbana, and had a conversation with them. I was like, so listen, this is what I want to do. And I need it to be small, and it needs to be able to do this. And they were like, I think this can work. Let's see. And so we're using evaporative cooling. And evaporative cooling is not a new technology. It's actually been in the public domain for many, many years, but it's mostly used industrially. So we're the first that are using it on people in this capacity. So it's a lot still that we have to learn about it, in terms of, like, the the efficacy and as it relates to different people, because everybody who's having an overheating experience might be having a different experience. So I can't test everybody yet, but I can, once we're out in the market, and we'll get that feedback and iterate. Just like the first iPhone doesn't look like iPhone 2012 or whatever iPhone number y'all are on right now, because I'm not an iPhone. But I know that the current one doesn't look anything like the first one. So we're expecting to have to iterate after we get feedback from folks from, our preview collection. But at the end of the day, the goal is to always keep it simple, always make it so that it has no adverse effect on your biology, always make it so that it has no negative impact on the environment, always make it so that it's really simple. All it literally requires is icy cold water. You pour it through the hydrophobic coated mesh, and your cooling zones are where your veins are the closest to the surface of your skin. And anything you put there, just like when you're overheating and you put a cold bottle of water there on your neck, it gives you a cooling effect. So it's not meant to make you cold. It's not meant to, solve the problem. You may have to wet it more often than others, depending on how episodic your flashes are. But at the end of the day, what it does is take the edge off the heat so that you can think straight. Because I would often be teaching and all of a sudden I'm sweaty and I don't remember what I said. I'm asking my students, like, what was I talking about? Because I'm hot. So
well, just for everybody watching, we're going to put in the comments here for you the link to myfria.com so that you can see what these beautiful bracelets look like. And just so you know, you're really resonating with our viewers. People thinking this is a great Mother's Day gift. And our from our board member Hollis Thomas, who just is finding this as fascinating as I know I found it. And June Smith is also saying, our friend June, to talk about the partnership you have with the jewelry company, which we definitely are going to get into. And she's suggesting that we get a Kickstarter campaign going for Freya.
That would be awesome because we need it.
I'm so glad that you're sharing your journey of all the steps that it took. And I know that it might, seem like a lot, but, people have ideas for businesses. And relentless is such an important word in this because it does show your tenacity. It does show your commitment to your product. It does show that you've been so passionate to keep an integrity to what you were doing as you've evolved it. And here we are. And, as June shared, you have an amazing partnership that you were, in at this point for your product. Can you tell us a little bit about that partnership and where that is right now?
Well, we were fortunate that my partner Karen had an amazing history with the team at Swarovski, and because she had worked with them during her career, and we would go to all of their shows where they would show new product, new crystals, and then when it came time to design them. We established a relationship. Like right now, it's we pay them for the design and the manufacturing, and they've been incredibly supportive. Like I could not be more grateful for how amazingly committed they have been, helpful in this entire process, and just beautiful. Like when everybody looks at these bracelets, they are stunningly beautiful. And I can't take credit for that. I could just say, hey, this is what I envision. And their team took it in and created something new. We have so many additional ideas for how we could design it even more going forward. So it's definitely the kudos go to Swarovski. And right now, they are desperately waiting for me to pay them. So that's what I'm really hoping to raise money for inventory for, because we are actually going to have a pop-up shop at Menlo Park Mall for Mother's Day, the weekend before and then the weekend of.
So that way Mother's Day.
Yeah, well, yeah, only because people never buy Mother's Day gifts until the last minute. That's just what they do, poor moms. But that's what so we're going to have a pop-up shop there, and we hope that we'll have the opportunity to do some demonstrations and let people purchase and just to see how they work and to see how well they're made. Like we didn't skimp on design or materials. The bands are real leather, or it's using like pure crystal Swarovskis, or we're using rhodium as for the encasement where the tech is. It was just important that the quality of the product be um, high quality, because it's a reflection of you. We could have, we talked to other folks and they could have thrown something together easily or quickly, and that would be the way the company is seen. And we're a brand new emerging brand. Nobody knows Freya, and they surely don't know me. And so, because I'm a behind the scenes person, they wouldn't know whether I was legit or not, or whether they could trust this brand or not. And I want folks to really feel like at the end of the day, it's a pretty bracelet. Whether you use the cooling aspect of it or not, you could just wear it with whatever outfit you have on, and it's a great accent piece. So it's always a pretty bracelet. It just also has the capability to have an additional function that helps us hot chicks out.
Well, that's amazing. And again, I do encourage everyone to go to Sheilisa's website at myfreya.com, as it's in the comments, and take a look at it. And you can see that it really is very pretty. And, again, eventually we're all going to need one, for life transitions. So it's definitely something you'd want to integrate into your jewelry box, to be able to pull out. So let's talk for a minute about, we mentioned that, and this is how it works for small businesses and for entrepreneurs, which is why I love that we're sharing this conversation with everybody. And so I want to talk a little bit about this, and then I want to jump into a space about, a little bit deeper into it. But, you've gotten to this point, you've got this great product, this great website, you've got this relationship with Swarovski crystals, you have orders coming in, you have pop-up shops at Menlo Park Mall. But you're at a juncture where you need more capital. You need more capital to go to the next level for your business. And this is where you're kind of stuck, right? You've won lots of competitions. You've taken, this product has been, blessed and, given a tremendous amount of attention up until this point in the different stages in terms of evolving it. But you're at another crossroads now, and you need about a good $100,000. Although less would work too, because each amount would get you there.
Right.
But $100,000, or less would actually get you to the next level.
To the next level, right.
So tell us where you are in terms of trying to get that. I know that you've got some proposals in, and what, the community, what relationships, what you need people to step in and, for lack of a better word, invest, even if it's not with dollars, but invest in relationships and connections for you to help you get to that next level.
So I can say that over these last 4 years, raising capital is a challenge, I think, for most entrepreneurs, but definitely entrepreneurs of color have it much harder. We're not in the networks or silos where we have access to capital, or, folks always tell us, I remember when I first started learning about this, they're like, well, so you first start with your friends and your family. And I'm like, my friends and family are broke. Okay. They may be able to donate to we did like a Kiva, and they're like, I got $25 for you. But in the scheme of things, that's not going to take you where you need to go. So I was fortunate to have a couple of angels, a mentor and a good friend who were able to, donate $30,000. But think about over these 4 years, I've done it's been my money, all my, anything, anywhere I could liquidate. That's exactly what I've done. Or I used to be a real estate broker. So every bit of money I would earn from real estate, I would pour into my business. And one person said to me, well, you have to show that you're willing to put skin in the game. And I said, all the skin in this game is my skin. Because when, even with our angels, those are convertible notes, which are basically loans. So these folks want their money back with interest. This ecosystem that we're in, that is a huge barrier for us, because in the scheme of things, $100,000 isn't really a lot of money to most people who think of what an entrepreneur needs, but it would be huge for me because it would do a lot for us adding inventory. And then if we have inventory, now we'll get revenue and we'll be able to turn that revenue around and put it back in the business so that we're able to generate more revenue. Now, so there are businesses that, I was watching a seminar the other day and the guy said, well, usually what, angels or funders like is like the they have to like the founder. They have to like the CEO. And we usually invest in you. And we usually, well, if we believe that you might have something good going on, we usually invest in you. And so over this time, it feels like I've been in rooms, between pitch contests and, just pitches in general and having conversations. And so to me, at the end of the day, is like, oh, so nobody likes me enough, or do they not trust what I'm doing enough, or they don't trust the knowledge that I have enough to say we're going to take this chance. And so that's why it's been such a challenge. And my mindset always said, don't focus on what you don't have. Focus on how you can maximize what you do have. But there, at this juncture where I am right now, like I have to pay for my inventory because even the relationship I have with Swarovski, it's fee for service. So they created the bracelets and designed them, but I have to buy them from them. And it's not even at a discount, like it's at cost. So right now we're not scaling. It costs a lot to make these bracelets because they're good quality, or we're using like amazing quality to produce them. So what I'm saying is that yes, it's been a challenge. And yes, it's different for entrepreneurs of color. And that can just change if people who say, I really want to be of assistance to women who are doing different things or innovative things or amazing things. If you look at us and you see that we put in a lot more work, like we're willing to turn $1, make $1 out of 15 cents. That's a chance that's taken on us. And that is the hardest part of this journey where I am right now, trying to raise this money. And yes, I'm applying for loans and grants, but it seems like every time you fit the description for what one thing is, you will miss one other caveat. And so like everybody asks, well, did you try for a PPP? Well, we didn't have revenue because we didn't formally launch until 2021. So if you didn't have revenue, they're not going to take into account that you spent money on your business. Like, yeah, it cost me $35,000 just in the whole preparation for the pivot from our original idea to an e-commerce platform. But they're not, that doesn't matter that was money spent. It's like you didn't earn any money, so you don't qualify for this. Or if you were looking for a small business, you've been in business since, so I've legally been in business since 2016, but because I just now have a product, they're like, we don't take into account until you got a product. Well, I couldn't have gotten a product overnight. How does this work? So it almost feels like there are so many barriers to like, well, if you had this, then we would do it. But you have this, but you don't have that. And I would call it more frustrating, but it just feels like it's not as supportive for women of color or entrepreneurs of color. And I know all entrepreneurs have a hard time. I know all entrepreneurs have trouble raising funds when they are trying to, build their passion. I don't take that for granted, nor do I believe that it's not difficult for them, but access to networks and resources and, silos and people and friends and family who might have more resources, that is not the norm of an option, at least in my realm. And that's a hindrance.
Well, I appreciate you sharing the detail around your journey, because that really is how, we can learn about how, we at the YWCA are very committed to eliminating racism. And one of the top ways to do that is being able to create economic equality. And we can create economic equality by supporting businesses that are owned by our BIPOC community. And, here's an example of Sheilisa who has done all the things right every step of the way, has this beautiful product ready to go, has done, moved it and applied for everything, won contests, brought it to a point, and here she is now needing that next phase of help, and hitting a lot of challenges, to be able to get there. And so we're out here sharing her story with all of you, just so that you can get a sense and understand what our BIPOC entrepreneurs go through, but also specifically to think about your networks and see if there's some way, or some ideas that we have to, those of us who say that we want to be allies, this is the kind of way and space that you can be an ally. Think about your networks, think about who you have, in your Rolodex, if that's still a thing, whether it's, virtual or not, and, who that we can make a connection, for Sheilisa to be able to help bring her business to the next level. She's put so much into it. And I have to say, as a CEO of a women's organization, what I really do, there's so much about your story that, has really captured me. But, the fact that you really are trying to change the narrative around menopause, for women, with this beautiful bracelet. At the same time, your personal experience, your lived experience, what you're bringing to your work, and how you've had to work through the challenges placed in front of you because of that. But relentless you are, and amazing you are, and so grateful that you came today to share your story with us. And I know that our viewers, we still talk about YWTV as really being a place to amplify and to share. It's on you now. Take this story. You can take this link, share it to your Facebook page, copy it and share it to someone in your life that might have a connection or an opportunity to be able to help Sheilisa, and think about your networks, and share her story. We want to amplify her story, and with that also, think about individuals that are in a similar situation, to the one that she's in, and the barriers, that she's sharing, that she's experienced, and ways that we can help dismantle those, for Sheilisa and others going forward to support economic equality for all, for sure. Sheilisa, thank you again so much for being with us today and sharing your story. And the detail you shared was actually so important. And I'm so grateful that you did that on so many levels. For those of you watching, we've shared this a little bit and we'll be talking more about it, but we have launched a program, a partnership with Eureka Biz, specifically to help support BIPOC women who are launching businesses, who are trying to grow their businesses. There is no charge. It is a part of a multi-week session that connects you to all types of resources, everything from coaching and mentorship, support, peer support, to other entrepreneurs, both locally for our YWCA New Jersey cohort, as well as nationally through all that are connected through this effort. And in addition to that, Eureka.com and the greater funders working, with this effort are working on micro grants and, all the other pieces that we know that are necessary to be able to create success in small businesses. So we have the links here in the comments for you to consider and think about. And here's the other piece. We're also thinking about the young women in our community, ages 15 and up. We'll be offering on, it's on April 7th on our Gen on the Go about Money Matters. It's a virtual workshop to learn for our young girls, as I said, 15 and up, about money, saving, building good credit, and stepping into adulthood. And these are the conversations that prepare us for where Sheilisa is and where the rest of us are in life, to be able to think about these things from a young age and growing with knowledge of these things and not having to learn them as an adult. So we encourage you to sign up for that too. We'll have the registration for the young women in your life as well. We wish everyone a great day, a safe day. Sheilisa, thank you so much for sharing your story. Everyone, again, please check out her website, learn more about Freya, think about Mother's Day, tuck it in an Easter basket too. It's all good, something everyone can benefit from. And in the process of that, helping support this, business owner in moving ahead with her goals.
Well, I thank you so very much, Helen. for this opportunity to share my story and to get a little bit more awareness about it, but more importantly, for what you're doing in general for the overall population of women and women of color and entrepreneurs. We need platforms and synergies so that if we work together, because I really believe that the things that we use as differences, which end up being barriers and obstacles, really are, unnecessary, and we could just do more together. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, shoulder to shoulder. That's how we do it. And when your book comes out, we'll have you back, and we'll be talking about that too.
Yeah, I wrote it. I just haven't released it yet. I wrote it a while ago, and they're like, "When are you going to release it?" I'm like, "As soon as I release, as soon as Freya is like, up and running, and then I'll really share the whole story because I think that it's got some good bits of wisdom in there, just about the whole process of being able to define what winning means to you, and I define it differently. But we all get the opportunity to do that. So hope
Well,
people will be interested.
I'm sure we will. I know I've learned a lot from our conversations, and I'm sure others have as well. Be well. Good luck. We're rooting for you. We're thinking for you. And everyone have a great day. Be well.